Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the incredible two-decade strategy that made Nvidia an AI titan. It's really a story about betting on a completely different future and just rewriting the rules of the game. Okay, so for decades, the entire tech world was completely obsessed with just one thing, the CPU war. Right? It was this massive heavyweight fight. You had Intel versus AMD, and it was all about this relentless battle to build the fastest single processor, the brain of every single computer.
But here's the crazy part. The real story isn't even about who won that fight. It's about how, while everyone was watching that war, Nvidia, well, they just quietly won the whole shebang by changing the rules entirely.
And wow, the results of that pivot are just staggering. Nvidia's market cap didn't just grow, it was like a phase transition. It just exploded, making them one of the most valuable companies on the entire planet. So the big question is, how on earth did they pull that off?
Okay, so to really get it, we're going to break down their strategy into 6 key acts. We'll start with their earliest battles and take it all the way to the super high-stakes war that they're fighting right now.
All right, let's kick it off. Act 1, the war everyone watched. So our story begins in a world where, computing power basically meant one thing and one thing only, making a single processor, the CPU, do one task at a time, just faster and faster and faster. And that brings us right to Act 2, a lesson from defeat. See, to really understand Nvidia's genius move, you gotta go back to a battle they almost lost in the 90s, what we now call the first graphics wars. So, after their first chip totally bombed, Nvidia was getting hammered by a rival, this company called 3DFX. And 3DFX was all about their closed, proprietary system. Now, Nvidia had a choice to make, a really pivotal one. They decided to bet on open standards, things like DirectX. Why? Because they believed that empowering developers, that was the real path to victory. And you know what? The bet paid off big time. By 2000, they weren't just competing, they were buying the assets of their now failing rival.
And that lesson, that really early lesson that the ecosystem is everything, that led directly to Act 3, the billion-dollar bet. We're talking about a prophetic, multi-billion-dollar investment in software. And they did this long before anyone else really got how critical it was all going to be.
And that bet, it had a name, CUDA. When this thing launched back in 2006, it was a totally revolutionary software bridge. For the very first time, scientists could tap into the massive parallel power of a graphics card just by using simple languages they already knew, like C++. Think about that. CUDA basically unlocked a supercomputer that was hiding inside every single gaming GPU.
You see, this massive, sustained investment completely changed who Nvidia was. They weren't just a chip company anymore. No way. They were building a platform. They became a hardware and a software company. And that right there, that was a move their rivals just completely missed.
Now, for years, this whole billion-dollar bet on CUDA, it seemed pretty abstract, right? Kind of like a niche tool just for scientists. But then came 2012. A single event happened that proved just how visionary this bet really was. And it kicked off the entire AI revolution. Welcome to Act 4, the AI Big Bang.
That event was what we now call the AlexNet moments. A neural network just shattered all the image recognition records, and it absolutely stunned the AI community. But here's the crucial part, the real kicker. It wasn't run on some massive government supercomputer. Nope. It was run on 2 off-the-shelf Nvidia gaming GPUs. A task that would have taken months on a CPU was suddenly done in just a few days. This was it. This was the definitive proof that GPUs were the engine for the AI revolution that was about to explode.
Okay, so why? What is it about a graphics card that makes it so ridiculously perfect for AI?
Well, it really all comes down to 2 totally different ways of thinking, if you will. A CPU, think of it like one brilliant, super fast brain. It's designed to tackle complex, single tasks, one after another, sequentially. But a GPU is totally different. It's like having thousands of smaller, simpler brains all working together, all in parallel. Its whole job is to do millions of simple things all at the exact same time.
And it just so happens that the core mathematical job in AI is something called matrix multiplication. And what's that? Well, it's a task that involves massive numbers of simple calculations that can all be run at once. So the very math at the heart of AI is just
perfectly, almost poetically, suited for a GPU's parallel brain.
And the financial result of this perfect alignment, it's just off the charts. Seriously, look at this data. Back in 2012, before AlexNet, Nvidia was just a tiny fraction of Intel's value. But after that AI Big Bang, their valuation just launched into a completely different orbit. It's the ultimate proof of who really bet on the future of computing.
So, with their hardware now proven as the engine of AI, you'd think Nvidia might rest on their laurels, right? Wrong. They moved decisively to make their position totally unassailable. And this brings us to Act 5, building the AI factory. This is where they consolidated their power by building a massive, multi-layered moat. See, they didn't just sell chips. They built a fortress, a whole ecosystem. You've got the hardware at the foundation, then you have CUDA as that crucial software bridge. On top of that, you have all these AI libraries, and finally, ready-to-go models. Every single layer of this moat makes it way easier for developers to build on Nvidia's platform, and crucially, much harder to ever leave.
And then they completed their AI factory strategy with a really critical move. In 2019, they dropped almost $7 billion to buy a company called Mellanox. Now, why would they do that? Well, think about it. When you're connecting thousands of GPUs, the real bottleneck becomes the network that's moving all that data around. So by buying Mellanox, the absolute leader in high-speed networking, Nvidia took control of the entire data center stack, from the chip itself all the way down to the cables connecting them, the whole thing.
But, this level of dominance, owning the entire stack, it puts a massive target right on your back. And that leads us to our final act, a fortress under siege. We're talking about the new, super high-stakes battlefield that's emerged because of their success.
The big fight today isn't Intel versus AMD anymore. Not even close. Now it's a battle between Nvidia's closed proprietary fortress, all built on CUDA, and a growing rebellion. And this rebellion, it's made up of competitors pushing open-source alternatives, and even Nvidia's own biggest customers, who are now building their own custom chips just to break free from that CUDA lock-in.
Yeah, the attacks are coming from literally all fronts. You've got direct competition from AMD, you've got their own biggest customers, we're talking Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all building their own chips. And then there's geopolitics, right? You have huge supply chain risks with their manufacturing in Taiwan, plus US export controls are basically forcing a brand new competitor to emerge in China.
And here's the real irony in this whole story. The very thing that made Nvidia so incredibly powerful, that unified proprietary CUDA ecosystem that locks developers in, is now its single greatest strategic vulnerability. It's the #1 reason the rest of the entire industry is uniting to find a way to tear down its walls.
So, this really sets the stage for a classic platform war, doesn't it?